everybody, how are you? Good. I'm Travis Payne.
I'm Stacy Walker. Hello.
Thank you for having us. We're happy to be here.
I'm laughing because Travis was dancing backstage. You would have died. Who can understand English? Raise your hand. Hi. Raise it high. A lot of you.
Oh, good.
Okay. We do have translators, but I know that a lot of times when we talk, our humor will be better if you understand English. And if you don't, then of course we'll have translation. But anytime you don't understand something, please let us know. And also, you should know that there's a question and answer.
Yes.
At the end of each section,
Yes.
each morning session and afternoon session, okay?
So before we start, we definitely want to thank Ms. Cal and the members of the government who've invited us to do this. It's a blessing and an honor to be back in Taiwan, and I hope you get something out of this. We're very excited to share with you what we know about pop culture, pop concert, tour, development, and creation. Okay?
All right, so now we're gonna start the process and telling you exactly how we're gonna get this done step by step, okay? So basically, the first thing you do is you have an initial meeting with the artist. First of all, to see if you even get along as people, and to just share ideas and get the ball rolling. Okay, I remember meeting Jolynn actually before we started. Travis was out of the country somewhere,
Yeah.
I think, and I met her in New York.
Yeah. I think I
And-
was doing Cirque du Soleil.
And we had a Skype, I think we had Travis in on Skype, and we met with Jolynn and we talked through some ideas and made sure we all got along and we're going in the same direction and before even deciding to work together, okay? So you have that initial meeting first. I guess this is a good time too to just discuss the artist's overall wishes for the show. Sometimes an artist will be very
Opinionated.
interested and opinionated in sharing a certain story or a specific vision. I know one time we were working with 21. Do you know that K-pop group? Okay. And CL especially was very opinionated and had this idea she wanted to make it about women, showing all the sides of women, and so we had to figure that out. And sometimes artists, who was an artist that
Like G Dragon,
Mhm.
he was very open to what the ideas were. Of course, you take cues from the music, you get familiar with the artist's previous work so that you understand their sort of style and you understand what they've done before. So you are careful not to repeat any ideas. But once you have a knowledge of sort of what you think the artists like, then it makes it easier to present things, And G Dragon was one who was very trusting in saying, hey, you guys come up with what you think would be the best ideas for this tour. And then together we will finesse them and make them perfect. So it comes to you in a variety of ways. Jolynn too was an artist who was open to hearing ideas, which in turn inspired her to come back with her own ideas. And what we wound up with was a combination of all of our ideas. Understand? When working with, our longtime collaborator Michael Jackson, it was very easy to interpret his songs. He wanted the songs to sound like they do on the record, number one. Don't change them. All of the imagery that goes with each short film or music video is so recognizable and iconic. Don't change it. Just present it in an interesting way, right? So every artist or every group is going to have their ideal way of working together, For example, TLC like 3 different things. There's always going to be 3 different ideas. So it was about taking the best part of each idea and making it sort of go together, right? So every experience is different, and one is not wrong. It's just the artists are different, and each of them have a different approach to how it's done, and expect a different thing from us each time.
And you know, it's occurring to me, it's very different when you're working with a solo artist as opposed to a group. When you have a group of 3 or 4 people, you have 3 or 4 different ideas. And so it's a balancing act of trying to make each of those artists feel important and heard, and letting them each shine in their own way. Whereas a solo artist, you know, that's somewhat easier because you're really just dealing with one person. So it's easier to please one person than 4, you know. Although we've had pretty good luck with both. So.
And so, you know, there is oftentimes a reason for the show. Other than to just promote the album, which is obvious, a lot of times artists evolve, you know, so they want to show that, all right, for the last 5 years, I have been training in classical music. I have a very good operatic singing voice now. My fans have never heard that. How can we present that new element to my artistry in my concert? Don't know what song, don't know what part of the show. I just want to sing in classical because I've been training, and it's going to be really fun for my audience to hear me do this, right? So that was one of the things Jolene said to us, you know, find a place where I can sing in a operatic classical voice. It should be very dramatic, it's going to be very thoughtful, and it's going to be a surprise for the audience. You know, so you get little tasks like that. Or if you have an artist who has been, you know, training on an instrument, who all of a sudden now is a really good drummer. You know, like one of the guys in Big Bang. You know, he's been studying the drums and wants to have a drum solo. Where does it go? So we just, okay, we put it on the list. And then we remember, you know, at some point in the show, you've got to include that thing.
Or I know how to DJ now, and I want to work that into there. We do that with G-Dragon. So sometimes you want to showcase these unexpected talents that they might have or have been working on.
And so also times, you know, with regards to the reasoning of the show, like Stacey had said, you know, 21 wanted to talk about, you know, female empowerment, you know, the different, you know, sort of dimensions that women possess. You know, for This Is It, you know, for Michael Jackson, he wanted to remind the, you know, people of the world of all of the sort of responsibility we have left to the planet, you know, so that all of these messages that have been in his songs, like Earth Song or Heal the World or We Are the World, you know, at that time, and even now still, seem so relevant. You know, even though the songs were, many of them were created 20 years before This Is It, you know, now when we look at civil unrest in different parts of the world, when we look at the diminishing rainforests, when we look at poverty, hunger, all of those levels that we deal with currently, his idea was, my classic songs need to remind people of the work that we have to do as a society. So the whole show was based on that idea. You know, it wasn't, oh, well, let's go do a cool show and sell some records. It was, no, my responsibility to the planet is to say these things on a world stage. Okay, welcome back. Moving on.
Okay, so we're going to assemble the cast now. So once you put your team of people together, then you assemble the cast. But you, of course, you have to write the script first, right? Or you don't know what you need. So as you write the script, you're like, oh, we need 2 aerialists, or we need 5 dancers. We need all male singers. You know, you have to figure out what you need for the script, and then you start the casting process.
And it's really fun, and I mean, you'll find that depending on what kind of shows you get to work on, you might find yourself, you know, casting kids who can be in your show. You know, there's children in the new Mariah Carey show and the new Janet Jackson shows. You know, the last Miley Cyrus concert had little people in it. You know, so and you can find that as you're going, depending on the type of artist you get to work with, whatever the music is, what kind of show you get to do, your casting process can be a lot of fun. You know, that's where you really get to find out, you know, what type of talent is out there and available these days.
You also might have to be aware of budget and how many people you can afford to pay and have on the road, which means you might need to get people to multitask. If you can find a dancer who can also do aerial work, or is also a gymnast, then you only have to hire that one person instead of 3 different people, you know? So, just something to be aware of. So we'll start with the dancers, just since that's where we come from. So you'll audition the dancers. Generally, our first audition, we always film it. At least we film the top 20 or 30 contenders. Sometimes your artist will be at the casting and sometimes they won't. So it's important that they see the possibility of who may be working with them, because you'll most times need their approval, okay? Also, we were talking about, it's great to film the auditions because so many times in the middle of the tour, the run of the shows, you lose somebody. Somebody gets sick, somebody gets injured, and you have to replace the dancer. So it's great to be able to go back to those videotapes and say, oh yeah, what, remember him or remember her, and then you'll have someone to pull from. Okay, so really important to videotape the first casting. Generally, after the initial casting, you'll talk to the client or the artist and say, you know, which ones do you like, which ones do you not like, and you'll oftentimes have to have a callback, which is just a second audition, but it's smaller, just with the top contenders. And then once you get the artist to sign off on those people that you've chosen, then that's when the booking process begins. In America, we have agents. You know what an agent is, yeah. But I don't know if do you have agents here? Do you know? You do? Okay. Some countries, they don't really work so much with agents. I don't think in Korea or Japan we ever worked with agents. In America we do, or LA specifically, we have agents.
In Europe, there's agents.
So those are the people that will, you know, negotiate fees, travel arrangements, what kind of flights, hotels, all that kind of stuff is necessary to be put in the deal.
We have found, through past experience, that it's better at the audition to figure out who's got passports, who can work abroad, who's available. Because you'd be surprised how many dancers get excited about working with Jolene and come to the audition and go through the whole process, and we want to hire them, but he doesn't have a working visa to even be working in America, let alone on a world tour.
Or they're already doing another tour that doesn't finish till halfway through the one we're working on. That's actually happened to us with This Is It. I want to say we had, I think it was 3. Okay.
The Cher guy,
Madonna.
the Madonna guy, and a Madonna girl.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So we had 3 people audition for This Is It and make it, but then they couldn't get out of their current contract, so they had to turn it down. And it was terrible for them. They were not happy. But so that's crazy. So you have to make sure people are available. And if it's a tour, then they have the proper paperwork that allows them to travel. So many times people don't. And even with Jolene's tour, we had, the visa process began, but we had people from different countries, and we had, well, it turned out to be, I think, one guy missed our opening show because we couldn't get the visa in time.
Yeah, because he was French.
Yeah.
You know,
it wasn't his fault.
No, it wasn't his fault. It was just the nature of the different countries. communicating with each other. But it's good to know that going forward, so that, if we've fallen in love with you, but you've made it clear to us that you have a visa issue, or you haven't secured your passport yet, or you lost your passport and have to replace it, all these things we've heard, then we can have an option for you so that we can plan in case it doesn't work out with you. We have another young lady that we've already selected, as opposed to needing to go back several days later once the artist has approved the people that we want to hire and everybody has started to imagine having a particular cast, but then people fall out because, certain things weren't done ahead of time.
We also always recommend hiring a few backups, meaning, in case people get sick and people get injured, and if you go ahead, since you're going to have this whole rehearsal process anyway, if you go ahead and just train 2 extra dancers, at least somebody knows the show in case someone twists an ankle or gets the flu, and it's a nice way to get someone in there quickly. Otherwise, someone gets hurt, you have to spend, a week finding somebody, another week doing paperwork, another 2 weeks doing training. By then a month's gone by and you've been down a dancer. So, it's a really good idea to hire replacements right away and get them in on the initial rehearsal process.
And letting them rehearse with the main cast and the artist, because sometimes the artist is like, who is this person that all of a sudden is showing up? I don't know who they are. I've never met them. It's uncomfortable, but if that person's been there, or at least we're aware of that person being there in the event you need to replace somebody, it's a much smoother transition for the people on the road and us at home.
The casting is also a great time to go ahead and get the dancers' sizes, so you can give them straight to wardrobe right away, because wardrobe's got a lot of work to do. By this time they've already gotten the script and kind of know what's expected, so this will allow them to go ahead and get their sizes and start making the clothes. Okay, so great time to do that. Okay, so then we, after that's done, we'll work with the musical director to assemble the band, the background vocalists, and we're usually a part of this to some extent, because a lot of times we'll like to have a certain look in mind. We've done a tour where we wanted an all-female band, for instance. That was on 21. So we wanted to make sure, the whole band was female and had a certain vibe about them. So that casting called for that. If we don't have a particular look that's needed for the band, then, the musical director will probably put together their own band if we don't have a look in mind. But, oftentimes we're involved to some extent, especially with the background vocalists, okay, we want 2 girls and a guy, or just all girls, or whatever. And we go through the same process, basically. This is also a good time for them to collect all critical information, just like the dancers, visas and paperwork and sizes and all that kind of stuff as well. All right? And then, if needed, we'll do the same process to assemble any specialty acts, which, like we talked about before, can be gymnasts or aerialists or illusionists, any other talent that might come into play.
And we've had, for example, with Joanne, we had Amuro Nami join her, one of the more important shows. And so it was the logistics there. It was communicating what the idea would be. They had a song that they had done together. Okay, well, this is the way the stage is set up. This is what we'd like for you to do. If you show up on the day, we'll just have a short rehearsal to do that. So there's some coordination that goes on between both of the teams to make sure that that comes off successfully and both artists are comfortable.
Okay, since we're a little off our schedule now, I think we should go ahead and jump to the pre-production meeting. Okay, so we're going to move ahead to the pre-production meeting, which is basically where we lay out the script for the whole show and go through with each, like head of each department. All right, so let's put a slide up here so you can see. Bear with us for one moment. this should be slide number 1. Oh, you did A and B. Let's go to the other one first. Do you have the
breakdown?
Yeah, the breakdown. Yeah. Okay, so this is a good way to kind of see, this is kind of a great way to start your first pre-production meeting using a graph similar to this, because you can go through with each department and kind of let them know what's expected. Okay, so up at top, you see, that's basically the intro movie. This is Jolene's tour. So you see the intro movie and what's required of that. We've got audio, it's on the kabuki screen. You know what a kabuki screen is? It's generally a big, huge piece of fabric, and it's what we show opening videos on, oftentimes because then it acts like a curtain. It's at the front of the stage and it'll fall or be sucked up or torn off some way and reveal the stage. Okay, so we call that a kabuki curtain. So that's that. Our first section, as you can see, was called, it's actually Magic World, but that says Magic World.
Okay.
That's funny. That's a typo. I just noticed that. And our first number was Medusa. It tells you how long the song is, what kind of mic the artist is going to use. This is important for the sound department, so they know when they have to come on and change her mic from a headset to a handheld. Okay, so we always specify that. Lighting, we kind of have a general idea of what the lighting is. It's going to be a green color, and the song will end in a blackout. Okay, and then video, I can't read that, Jeff.
Is that was our Medusa snakes and everything, correct?
We had created.
That was all of our content that was actual snakes.
Just telling video what that is. Now then you see cast. So we only had dancers. So dancers, we had 5 girly boys, 5 beefy boys, and 2 girls, okay? And props and sets are listed as well as far as special effects. Can you guys read this? Yeah. You can? Okay.
And then what special things happen in it? For this one, it was a kabuki drop.
Yeah, and special effects, we see that there was low fog and pyro and all that, okay? So it just gives you a breakdown of what happens in each number. And you can kind of just take a minute to continue to read. But you see, in the first section, we had 4 songs, and you can see we kept a headset mic the whole time. It didn't switch to handheld until the second. We have done this where you can switch in the middle of a section, but it's easier to do one sort of mic per section because it takes a little bit of a change.
And especially too with females, because the outfits are different. You know, cords have to be tucked a different way. It's harder to change them out. You know, most times with males, the cords can just hang. You can just walk up to them and grab it. Females, you have to take extra care not to rip the costumes, not to, you know, because when we're talking threading it down the back, under wigs, it could be a little complicated.
Okay, so just take a minute to kind of look at this and see some of the differences, especially in lighting. There'll be like simple just directions. We'll show you the script in a minute, which gets a little more elaborate. But this is just kind of a nice overview of the breakdown of Jolene's show.